What's up guys, this is Miasin, and today I wanted to go over Dimensional Barrier and try to figure out if the card was really worth playing this format or not. And by the way, when I say this format, I'm talking about right now and also post Supreme Darkness, even though it doesn't really change much of anything, just because it's still the same thing for the most part. We're still going to be seeing a lot of Ryzeal, a lot of Malice, a lot of the same things, right? But I think people will slowly but surely start to understand that there are some other extremely overpowered decks that exist that have not been seeing much play, especially since the ban list, and I actually think that if anything, those decks are, better than what people think they are. And when I say those decks, I'm talking about Tenpai Dragon especially, and maybe some other decks out there. Like Mermail, for example, I think is extremely good. The only real flaw is that, it loses to like Shifter, Droll, the Chummies, etc. But that's it, it doesn't lose to the baby hand traps like Valor, Imperm, Ash, and all those good stuff. But yeah, Tenpai Dragon extremely broken in the deck, and Dimensional Barrier, is it the correct card to play against them? Maybe yes, maybe no. You will figure out in this video. But anyways, before we go any further, y'all know the drill, smash the like and the subscribe button. It really motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so first things first, what is Dimensional Barrier really good against? Well, the Melodious deck actually literally scoops, like it passes turn to the middle, to Dimensional Barrier calling Fusion. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, like it can technically still end on like Baguska Pass, or like a very small setup of you still summon Arya and like another Melodious monster, so I guess you kind of survive, you have an annoying lock. But that's all it really does. Like, there's no Baka, no something, the Etoile, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. I don't really care about their names. But yeah, you can't summon any of those monsters. Despia, same thing. You get hit by D-Bear calling Fusion. Your deck goes from, like, a good deck. Well, I mean, a good deck in quotation to, like, a very bad deck. And then the Purely deck, same thing. You're basically just passing turn. You're doing nothing. You can't even play on the opponent's turn. Pure Ryzeal, you get hit by D-Bear calling Xyz. You just do nothing at all. And also Sword Soul Tenyi, which will be getting more support in Supreme Darkness. Well, more Tenyi cards. Yeah, that deck you call Synchro, and the deck just does absolutely nothing, because the Tenyi cards, they're not really good at, like, link climbing into real cards. You're summoning normal monsters that really just do nothing. So I want to see these decks are the absolute worst into Dimensional Barrier. With that being said, there are some top tier decks out there that don't really care too much about Dimensional Barrier. So the first one is the deck that won YCS Anaheim thanks to its boy Steven Trifanowski, and that is the Ryzeal Fiendsmith Bestial, sorry, not with the Bestial cards, but Ryzeal Fiendsmith. Now everybody has started implementing some Bestial cards in the deck, just because it's extremely good against the Fiendsmith engine, and the Fiendsmith engine is being played by everyone and their mother. So if everybody's playing light and dark cards in their deck, it goes without saying that Bestials are kinda nice, and I want to say the best card to beat this deck is not actually Dimensional Barrier, because if you collect Xyz, then they still have fusion monsters in the form of the Fiendsmith engine, so Necroker Princess as well as Fiendsmith DS Ire, and the Bestials can still be used to, like, be summoned on the field and then apply pressure and kill you. And honestly, you can get OTK'd very easily if you call Xyz with Dimensional Barrier against this deck. And if you call anything other than Xyz, then you die at the speed of light, because the Ryzeal cards will demolish you. So yeah, Dimensional Barrier, not the best against this deck. It's really well built to beat it. However, Different Dimension Ground wipes the floor with them. So first of all, with DDG, you are making it so that they can only really summon one Bestial, and that would be by, actually no, 0, because you're shotgunning this on draw phase. It's not even like Shifter, where you're at least giving one dark monster to your opponent. So with DDG, the Lubellion cannot be legally activated, so that already works in your favor. Engraver can be activated, but it's just going to get banished, and it's going to search another card that does nothing. Like, what are you going to do? Like, search a track to search a Luri, and then discard something else, and then it gets banished? Yeah, you're nagging a lot for no good reason. So the Fiendsmith engine, terrible into DDG. Bestial engine, terrible. And the Ryzeal engine is also not great against DDG. So let that sink in. If you DDG on draw phase or standby phase, not on main phase, you really have to shotgun this card. The X Ryzeal, it's not going to be able to dump something to be summoned. So in other words, what this means is that even though you can still normal summon X Ryzeal, search Sword Ryzeal, special, search your follow-up for next turn, because you can't search like an Ice Ryzeal to special summon itself, you can still make 1 rank 4 with an X Ryzeal. However, if you have Sword Ryzeal as your starter, it actually does absolutely less than nothing, because you can't go normal summon Sword Ryzeal, effect to search an X or an Ice, and then special, because again, you can't legally special summon Ice and X Ryzeal under DDG, since the cards get banished instead, and their summoning condition implies that you have to send a card from the hand or field to the graveyard for Ice Ryzeal, and for X Ryzeal, it's from the extra deck to the graveyard. So yeah, under Shifter, under a different dimension ground, your deck becomes less consistent, less reliable, and you lose a lot of consistency cards, I want to say. Like, the only true real starters would be Ice Ryzeal, because that can still lead to, I believe, double rank 4s. Actually, not even. You go normal summon Ice Ryzeal, you special summon the X, you search the sword, and then you summon the sword, you search follow for next turn, and then you have 3 level 4 monsters, and nothing else. So you can make 1 rank 4, and then that rank 4 can be Duo Drive. The Duo Drive can search the Node Ryzeal as well as the field spell, and then you can special summon the Node Ryzeal, and then you can make another rank 4. So there you go. Actually, yes, Ice Ryzeal can summon double rank 4s under DDG, which is not too bad, and they do play 6 Ice Ryzeals. But then again, if you were to debear this deck, it would be probably worse, because then they have Fiendsmith cards that are live, they have Bestial cards that are live, X Ryzeal is super explosive, and also Sword Ryzeal will wipe the floor with you. If you understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, moral of the story, Different Dimension Ground is probably the better card against them, and also Different Dimension Ground is extremely good against Memento and Mermail. Although you can kind of argue that against Memento, Debear Calling Fusion is low-key not too bad, but Different Dimension Ground is straight up a turn skip. Like, it's too much. It's absolutely too much. But yes, this card against decks that play the Fiendsmith engine, it will carry you. I really recommend looking into this card over Debear. Anyways, the Tenpai Dragon deck, another deck that really just doesn't lose to Debear at all. Like, even though everybody thinks it still does, no, this deck is not a synchro deck. Yeah, I know, it sounds really shocking. It rarely synchro summons. It doesn't really, I mean, no, actually, it always synchro summons, but it doesn't have to synchro summon if it wants to kill the opponent, just because you have a lot of link monsters that you can access in your extra deck. You have Hita off of the Sky Striker package, so you can go Hita, revive back a fire monster from the opponent's graveyard, make a princess, revive back a monster, make the Raging Phoenix into Zelantis. You can also crash the Hita, search Genroku, special summon Genroku, tribute, summon Chandra, attack, special summon, etc. blah blah blah. So the deck is ultra consistent. The limitation of Chandra really just made the deck worse when it shifters the opponent, because now your grind game, your ability to OTK after you banished all your cards, it becomes significantly less high. And also Kaiman going to 1 just really means that now your opponent can map out your hand easily, because if you already have the field spell and then you go normal summon Pydra effect, now your opponent knows exactly where to interact with you, because he knows that you don't have the Kaiman already in your hand. So Valor can be a good card to throw there. But yeah, Tenpai Dragon is still extremely good. Don't let the limitations fool you into believing that it is now a bad deck. And the deck has always been good into Debear, and the deck is even better now because it plays so many board breakers, so many more extenders, and it is just, like I said, a deck that will easily kill you just by link summoning. And I have also seen some people play the Fiendsmith engine in the deck, such as Steven, who managed to get top 8, I believe, at a remote duel regional with Fiendsmith Fiendsmith Tenpai, and also Bestials in the deck, which makes a lot of sense because Magna Mode searches your Genroku, and then you can kind of play on your opponent's turn. It's just a lot of nice engines that you can play in Tenpai. So as long as you can mitigate the I guess the drawback of, I mean, not really the drawback, but the weakness that you have to Dimensional Barrier Calling Synchro, you don't lose to it. You only really lose to D-Barrier if you're playing like the most cookie-cutter build in the entire world. But the real card that destroys Tenpai has never been this card. It was always a Threatening Roar, just because without a battle phase, obviously you can't kill your opponent, which is like the #1 way you beat, you win in Tenpai. It's not really a deck that makes unbreakable boards and, prevents the opponent from playing. As a matter of fact, you're usually letting your opponent play as much as possible, and then you use board breakers. Before it was kind of like a mix between hand traps and board breakers. Now it's pretty much 100% all board breakers. You can also still play hand traps if you want to, but they're a little more high rolly, and you can draw all the hand traps in the world. If your opponent still ends on like Detonator Pass, it's going to be really tough for you to beat that. So I recommend either like a hand trap, a mix of hand traps and board breakers, or just board breakers. And yeah, Threatening Roar, either way, whatever your approach is, it's gonna really counter Tenpai. And another good card against Tenpai would be Thunder of Ruler. This card, however, does have a flaw. Unlike Threatening Roar, this card can only be used on the opponent's standby phase. However, it skips the battle phase completely. So it's not like Threatening Roar where the battle phase is still a thing, but you just can't attack. With a Thunder Ruler, for example, you can't even lead the opponent. So if you're scared of evenly matched or other cards that can only really be used during the battle phase, like anti-magic arrows, not that it's legit, Thunder Ruler could be the good card for you, but it does lose to like Cosmic Cyclone and Twin Twister used on draw phase. So yeah, keep that in mind. And finally, Malice just doesn't care about Dimensional Barrier, but they also don't care about different Dimension Gear on the Threatening Roar. All they really lose to would be like Sanctum and Atlancia. So that's about it. Yeah, this deck it's not really affected by this video at all. I'm just trying to throw that out, throw it out here just so that you understand that whether you replace D-Barrier with one of these cards, it's not going to change the fact that this is irrelevant to this conversation. Anyways, you can also play some other more generic cards instead of like a Dimensional Barrier because, again, it's kind of like a little too specific. So you can play the Solemns, Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike. I've seen a lot of people play Solemn Judgment now, so zero like silver bullets, no lingering cards. Just Judgment because it negates just about everything. It negates board breakers, it negates like summons. It's just a good card. Like if you already have everything or you don't have enough, then your opponent commits to like a commits to like a play. You Judgment it, and then you're good. Solemn Strike, it's like the card that negates less things than Judgment, but it's less expensive. You only play 15, whereas with Judgment you're usually paying 4k and then 2k. So if you got a Judgment your opponent twice, you're in dangerous territory because if you don't have much, then your opponent can just summon a Bestial, attack you, and then you're dead. Well, Karma Cannon is a decent card as well. It's very good against Malice if you go first. It's very good against Ryzeal if you go first. And it's alright against Tenpai. It's not the best because they are known to like side in. I mean, they already main deck Duster and Lightning Storm, but maybe they can side in even more back row hate. So yeah, this card, I would really just play lingering cards instead. Deck Devastation Virus, Eradicator, Epidemic Virus. The Virus cards are overall extremely good this format. I've already made a video on Deck Devastation Virus. I think I'm going to revisit it, but this card, it wipes the floor with Ryzeal and Malice just because the monsters have such low attack. In the Ryzeal deck, the only survivor is Ice Ryzeal and Engraver. Yeah, it's really just these two cards. Oh, and also the Bestials. But even the hand traps will die. Everything else will die. Bonfire will obviously exist. Well, it's gonna survive, but whatever. Nothing can really be done about that. Eradicator is basically just Exodia against Tenpai. You call spells, and then you win the game because they really just have a bunch of board breakers, but that's it. So if you can turbo out any floodgate in the game, this one, it's the one that will give you literally a 100% chance to beat them. They're gonna start maybe with like 1 or 2 cards in hand, and that is just not enough to break your board, especially since you have knowledge on your opponent's hand. You know exactly how to interact with them now. So that's another reason why the Virus cards are extremely good, by the way. It's also for the knowledge so that you can use your hand traps correctly. And then obviously Different Dimension Ground could be a great replacement for Dimensional Barrier. And if you're not playing Anti-Spell already, this card's also pretty good. It is decent against Ryzeal Fiendsmith just because of their starters like Bonfire, or if they have like Engraver and Shrag. Both of these cards they play into Anti-Spell because Engraver is still searching a spell, so even though it's a monster, it still loses to it. Malice loses less to Anti-Spell, but it can still kind of lose to it. Especially the Malice Sky Striker build, it plays so many spell cards, it's absurd. Still, they can still draw like Shishira Cat and a Malice, or like a Dormouse, or like a White Rabbit. Actually, there's a few ways they can not really lose to Heart Anti-Spell, but it drastically decreases the consistency of their deck. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about Dimensional Barrier, as well as all the alternatives that I suggested here in the comment section below. I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.